In the Russian-Ukrainian conflict has just broken out soon, the energy issue has become the focus of the US, Russia, and Europe tripartite tug-of-war, especially also at that time also occurred between Russia and Europe's important natural gas pipeline and sudden underwater explosions and gas leaks. We all know that Putin's troubles are not just a loud bang in the Nord Stream pipeline. After suffering a series of sanctions, Putin's government to energy as a weapon with the US and Europe to start the fight, in the use of cut-off supply and other means of combating Europe at the same time, with China and India and other countries to develop more cooperation. But in the background of China-Russia energy cooperation all the way to the good, some Western media to Russia poured cold water, claiming that China changed attitude, began to intend to control from the Russian crude oil imports. Is this really the case? What is China's oil policy in an increasingly complex international situation? In 2023, what are the new trends in energy cooperation between Russia and China? Does Russia have any better options than to go all the way east? Hi! Welcome to Auto Age. Before we started today's video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Okay, let's get started. As Reuters reported at the time, China has now become Russia's largest oil buyer. China's total crude oil imports from Russia increased by 28% over the same period last year, reaching 8.342 million tons. However, Russia has not been able to dominate the Chinese market. Instead, Saudi Arabia, whose energy exports to China have grown relatively slowly in the past 4 months, has regained the title of China's top crude oil supplier with a supply of 8.475 million tons. In fact, it is nothing new for Russia to lose to Saudi Arabia in crude oil exports to China. As China's two most important energy suppliers, Saudi Arabia and Russia have been exporting roughly the same amount of crude oil to China. Therefore, Russia was overtaken by Saudi Arabia this time, not as Reuters and other Western media said, because China is deliberately controlling the amount of energy imported from Russia, but more probably because of the role of the market. You must know that Russian crude oil has maintained a strong position in exports to China, mainly because Saudi Arabia has focused its oil exports on the European market with higher oil prices. In addition, the Putin government intends to increase exports to China, and has been selling crude oil to countries such as China at a price lower than the global average price. Therefore, the change in the export ranking this time can only show that Saudi Arabia has not given up the Chinese market. In addition, this change also shows that China is still insisting on building a diversified energy supply system, and has not beloved a single country because of factors such as prices. According to data from the General Administration of Customs, in August 2022, China imported a total of 40.354 million tons of crude oil, of which 16.817 million tons were imported from Saudi Arabia and Russia, accounting for 41.6% of the total imports. But nearly 60% of China's imported crude oil comes from other countries and regions. For example, in 2021, among China's top 10 oil source countries, in addition to Russia and a group of Middle Eastern countries represented by Saudi Arabia, Malaysia in Asia, Angola in Africa, Brazil in the Americas, and Norway in Europe will all be on the list. On the one hand, it fully reflects the diversification of China's energy sources. China's global layout, trying to obtain energy from different directions, is actually not unrelated to the reality of China's energy industry. Although China's oil reserves are no less than that of oil-producing countries such as Qatar and Norway, and it also has advanced oil extraction technology, in the context of rapid economic development, China's own crude oil extraction has long been unable to meet the growing domestic demand. Therefore, importing a large amount of crude oil to supplement the domestic market has become China's current best choice. There's a new announcement for 2023. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the Eastern Union gas pipeline will be realized, which will connect China, Russia, and Mongolia, and is expected to complete the design this year and start laying next year. In the past year or so, there is a point of view flirting with Russia is getting richer and richer, but this point of view is only half right. Russia and Ukraine just started the war. Due to global panic, resulting in a sharp rise in oil prices, Russia did make a fortune. From the second half of last year, as the Federal Reserve continued to raise interest rates, suppressing global demand, the economic outlook darkened, oil prices continued to fall, from the highest $130 barrel, fell to $80 barrel. Plus the EU, an important oil and gas consuming market, would rather triple the high price of US oil and gas and cut off Russia's oil and gas. Since the second half of the year, Russian oil and gas revenues have actually been decreasing. By 2023, the situation is even less optimistic. Now for Putin's government, the best way, or first stabilize the oil and gas revenue. To stabilize oil and gas revenues, we need to sell more to China. This is the reason why Russia wants to build another gas pipeline. If the Eastern Alliance gas pipeline is completed, the focus of the docking area will be China's northeastern and northern China. Looking at China's neighborhood, Russian gas is the best choice, especially for the northeast. Russia's natural gas reserves are large enough, as of the end of 2021, proven reserves of about 37.4 trillion cubic meters, the world's first, and Russia is right next door to China. You can go directly to the land pipeline delivery, which is crucial for China's energy security compared to the Strait of Malacca. Pipeline transportation is much safer. Previously, natural gas imports into northeast China have been dominated by LNG, which was first transported by LNG ships to Dalian, and then piped from Dalian to various parts of the northeast. As LNG requires the construction of liquefaction terminals, and the cost and loss of long-distance transportation is not small, resulting in the price of LNG is much higher than the pipeline gas, usually about 30% more expensive. The large-scale import of natural gas from the Russian pipeline, which can replace the LNG, the decline in energy costs will be conducive to the northeast of China's industrial costs, which will in turn improve the competitiveness of the northeast of the regions. Industrial. The reason why China's northeastern industry has been difficult to revitalize in the past, in addition to the factor of access to the sea, the lack of cheap energy is also the key. In addition, the use of large quantities of Russian natural gas, the northeast is also good for the environment. Northeast and neighboring Beijing and Tianjin are haze serious area. Every winter, the PM 2.5 value to burst the table. Behind the haze is closely linked to coal. In contrast, natural gas is much more environmentally friendly. Russia has little population in the Far East, currently about 5 million, and is still losing tens to hundreds of thousands per year, and has been worried about losing the Far East. The Northeast has a population of about 100 million, so if the Far East opens up to the Northeast and the two interact with each other, then the Far East's economy could grow. However, Russia is still afraid. It does not want the Far East and China to have anything to do, so it is not even willing to build a bridge to China. For example, the Haiha-Blagoveshchensk Boundary River Highway Bridge was originally signed by both sides in 2014, and the Chinese side had already repaired it, while the Russian side had been delaying the construction schedule. However, after the extreme sanctions by the West, Russia really has no way to look west. The road has been blocked. Look east. Deepen cooperation with China has become an inevitable choice, but in any case, the great power game, it's all about one thing and one thing only. In China's energy import system, the proportion of each supplier country also changes from time to time. After the Russian-Ukrainian war started and Europe fell into an energy crisis, Norway, which was the 10th largest import source of China's crude oil, began to change its strategy and sell more oil to Europe. But this did not affect the market shares of China. Norway's market share was quickly filled by South America's oil exporter, Colombia. With the influence of the Belt and Road Initiative, it is a sure thing for oil-producing countries such as Iran and Kazakhstan to strengthen cooperation in the energy field with China. By then, China's goal of diversifying its energy import structure will be further implemented. The Nord Stream explosion once again sounded the alarm for the energy security of every country. For China, efforts in the field of energy security still need to be multipronged. On the one hand, it needs to insist on expanding energy import channels and maintain diversification of energy supply. On the other hand, China must vigorously promote the development of industries such as new energy. In this way, China can realize the strategic goal of diversification in multiple dimensions as soon as possible in the field of energy. Okay, that's all for today. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.